Ladies and gentlemen, the founder and CTO of Postmastery, Maarten Oelering.
Hello, welcome. I'm really glad we have this audience because it would be really a pity if those carefully crafted emails that you make would end up as spam in Google over the course of this year. So let me first tell you a little bit about myself. I forgot the clicker. Okay, yeah. Maarten Oelering, I've been in the email industry for 25 years, and to my own surprise, very much to my own surprise, because I'm a bit of a nerd and I like technology. I like to learn new things. And when I started at Tripolis, an ESP in the Netherlands, I worked with email servers, and later on I also filled with email servers. It was all about email servers, so you could focus on your users. And when at that time email marketing was booming. But my daughters would say, email, that's for boomers, right? So, moving on, we started Tripolis, we started Postmastery, and at Postmastery we help senders with deliverability issues. We help them to stay on top of things with new technology, and luckily, thanks to the bad guys, we have seen a lot of developments in email. We've seen new standards in authentication, we have seen new technologies, supporting technologies like cloud. So yeah, for me it was still an exciting time. And at Postmastery we help these senders, and these senders are like ESPs, brands all over the world. And last month they sent altogether 15 billion emails. So who said that email was dead? So what happened on October 3? It was kind of a shock to many. There was this blog post from Gmail saying that starting in 2024 we'll require bulk senders to authenticate their emails, allow for easy unsubscription, and to stay under a reported spam threshold. Note the word require here. Exactly at the same day, Yahoo also came out with a blog post saying more secure, less spam, enforcing email standards for a better experience. And also note the word here, enforcing. So this made the email industry shiver, because so far we have been talking about guidelines, we've been talking about best practices. And that means you do what you can, and if you can't, what's the reason of doing it? But now they're talking about requirements, and not even that, they're talking about enforcement. So yeah, email geeks exploded, a lot of talk, and over time Google and Yahoo came out with more details on their Postmaster pages. So what was the message in these two blog posts? The message was exactly the same for both Google and Yahoo. So apparently they have been kind of joining forces and talking with each other about this. And they said by February 2024 we'll start to require that bulk senders authenticate their email, enable easy unsubscription, and ensure they're sending wanted email. But what does that mean exactly? I will dissect this message piece by piece in the following. So first about bulk senders. What makes you a bulk sender viewing from their perspective? What they define as a bulk sender is a sender from a certain primary domain sending 5,000 messages a day to gmail.com, so not to Workspace, specifically gmail.com, and roughly the same for Yahoo, although Yahoo didn't mention any numbers. This number was just meant as a guideline. So they made a distinction between all senders and bulk senders, and obviously probably everyone in this room can be considered a bulk sender. And so note that they are also counting on the domain, so it doesn't matter from which ESP you're sending, it's counted all together. And so that's about bulk senders. By the way, if you are considered a bulk sender, it's for life. So there's no, your domain is in their database and you will be considered a bulk sender, and that means that you have these additional requirements. And now about authenticate email. So that's the first thing they mentioned. Here's a screenshot from Gmail. You just click on original message and you'll see a number of things. And in this thing they talk about SPF, DKIM and DMARC, and I hope everyone knows about it. You don't need to know the details, but you, as an email marketeer, I think you also need to know something about it. So basically SPF ties the IP address to your domain and verifies if the IP address is entitled to send on behalf of that domain. And the same with DKIM, it's similar. With DKIM, it ties the content of the message and the headers to a domain. So it checks whether the email is authentic and sent by the domain that's in the DKIM signature. And then there is this new thing that the visible from domain needs to be aligned. And what they mean by that is that that domain needs to be, the primary domain needs to match the DKIM signature or the SPF domain. And that can be quite tricky, because if you go to your ESP and you say, hey, send my email, then it's not always that this ESP will take care of DKIM, it will take care of SPF, but right now what they require is that it's your domain and you need to do stuff. And then also there's DMARC, which is it is for anti-phishing, and it adds policy on top of SPF and DKIM. And what they require is that a DKIM record is present with a certain policy, and that can be still anything. But the idea is that you can see and that you get reports about your compliance with these authentication standards. So now easy in subscription. I think you've seen this probably. There's this unsubscribe button embedded within the email client. And how does that work? So how it works is that certain headers need to be added to the email. These are the list and subscribe headers. And there's also an additional header which should support an HTTP post. So this is something your email vendor or ESP can handle, but it's good to know about it and to make sure that it is within your emails and that you have this unsubscribe button visible in your emails. There's also the requirement to have a visible link in the email, but that's, I think, by law, so there's no issue with that. That's probably already there. But this list and subscribe is very important. And it's not only, it's also helpful for you as a sender, because Yahoo has said that if this unsubscribe button is present in the email, we have noticed that you will see 20 to 40% less spam votes. Because the alternative if somebody don't like the email, they will click on the junk button or the spam button, and that's not something you would like. So now about sending wanted email. So far you as a marketeer decides what's wanted or not. But no, wanted email nowadays is determined by voting. By voting of the recipients, they click on the spam button if they don't like it. And the hard limit will be 0.3%. So that means that if there's, let's say, 3 clicks on 1,000 emails, you're out. The 0.3% is kind of also a hard limit, but what we see in practice is that it's often less than 0.1. So 0.3 should not be the target, it should be much lower than that. And this means that even if you send 100% legitimate email, which is completely legitimate, it can be blocked because if the recipient thinks it's unexpected or annoying, they will click the spam. And how you monitor this picture is taken from Google Postmaster Tools. This is how you, with your domain, you can access that and you can see what your spam rate is over time. So I didn't mention so far some other technical measures, which like IP forward, reverse DNS, and also using TLS for security, so meaning encryption of emails. But these are often handled by the system or by the ESP. So I would say take a picture of this, put it on your cut it out and put it on your desk, because this will be very important. Then about the enforcement timeline. So they mentioned that starting in February we'll start doing this, and what they clarified the timeline later on, and what they said is that in February we will start with temporary errors. That means that your email will get delayed for a portion of the traffic that's not compliant. And in April, they will start gradually rejecting emails. So meaning really bouncing emails which are not compliant. And in June, they planned to enforce DMARC, which is a bit more tricky, and also the list unsubscribe. So the one click unsubscribe, the button embedded in the email client. What we've seen in reality is that these guidelines were shifted a little bit. But that doesn't mean that they won't happen. So we've seen, right now, we are seeing the first bounces because of DKIM and DMARC failures. So, looking this at a more higher, going back in time. So, is this all new? Because there's a big fuss about it, but yeah, why? SPF has been an open standard since 2006. DKIM has been open standard since 2007. Emerged in 2012. And list and subscribe post was a standard in 2017 and promoted by the Certified Sender Alliance in Germany for some time. So providers are talking about no auth, no entry for some time. And that should have been a warning. And this article from 2008, because I go back a long time, I saved it in my deliverability folder, but it already is talking about no auth, no entry. So if you don't properly authenticate your emails, you might get blocked in the future. So how far did we get in all those years past? This is if you look at the adoption of these authentication standards and requirements, you will see a difference when you look at volume or domain. So the large senders came quite far with using all these new best practices, but it's the long tail of small senders that now needs to do work. And if you look at the sender domain level, then SPF and DKIM is implemented by, let's say, 85% of the senders. Alignment, so the domain should, the authentication should be on the visible domain. That's done by roughly 70% right now. And DMARC is roughly implemented by 50% at this moment. So there's still some way to go, but this is already a critical mass. And that's exactly the reason why Google and Yahoo thought probably this is the opportunity to start with enforcement, because we need to do something to get the rest of the email senders over the fence. And we need to close the back door. And yeah, so there's all opportunity to raise the bar, and that means that now we need to do this, because otherwise we're in trouble. And you heard me talking a lot about the domain. So far you could say to your ESP, you do it. You take care of this authentication stuff. I will take care of the content of the email, the whole delivery. That's your domain. But with this alignment, it means that, of course, you want your email to be properly branded, and that domain is important. It carries a reputation, and so the sender domain has become the center of things. And I've already heard that some big European providers are using 100% domain reputation. So that means that it's up to you, it's up to what you are sending, and it doesn't matter which ESP you use, it doesn't matter how you send your emails or where you send your emails. It's really about your brand, about your domain. So say that you fulfilled all these requirements, and you have a really good reputation. But think what could happen when a spammer or a phisher uses your domain to send bad email, to send nasty phishing or horrible spam. It means that your reputation will be ruined. So my message is here, don't stop here, and protect and monitor your sender domain. So implement all these best practices when they are common. Don't implement them when they get enforced. Thank you.
Maarten, Oelering.